Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean casting nets, fish nerds, fish nerds, fish nerds. It's a podcast just for the halibut.
Hello and welcome to the Fish Nerds. Today it's about fish, fishing, and eating fish. I'm Clay Groves, Chief Executive Fish Nerd, Licensed Fishing Guide, and your best friend, joined by the Crappie Hippie.
Good morning, Claret. Hey. I'm glad I'm trying to make a living with my words since I know so few and can't even pronounce them. This is the Crappie Hippie. This is John King, the Crappie Hippie, co-founder of Glasswater Angling. You can find us at glasswaterangling.com. Here is Clay's co-host on the show that's always interesting, usually funny, and mostly true. Hello, everybody.
Well, hello, John. I'm glad to have you on today. We got a lot going on this week's show. You want to run down the table of contents?
Sure. We've got some cool stuff for the intro. I've got a contest announcement. Then we got a super fun field report from Doc Martin, our lovely, wonderful chief science correspondent, Doc Martin. She's going to fill us in on what she went on down to Florida and what she did down there. And then we got a lot of fish in the news stories. And I'll be introducing a little segment that we're not going to do every time, but it's new for us today. I hope you enjoy it. And then we're going to go on down and we're going to interview Alden Wicker, who is a consumer advocate, a consumer awareness author, and she's going to talk to us about bioplastics.
Yeah, this is a follow-up from a story we did in the news a few weeks ago. Turns out Manga Bay was listening when we quoted them in here, and they emailed me and connected me with the writer of that article. So it's perfect.
Well, we love Manga Bay, and thank you very much for cooperating with us and helping us get this fabulous interview on the show. And then I've got a few little teasers, little up and coming for y'all. And
sounds like a show, John.
Then we'll do our thank you and we'll get on out of here.
Yeah, sounds like a show. Sounds like a show. So how are things been going?
It's going good. Staying busy. I you know something, Clay? I can never buy the right stuff.
No,
for the business. It's for Glasswater.
Yeah.
Like I'm buying hooks. Like I want to always have my hooks stocked in advance. You know, what products do I need? What should I have? Anyway, buying hooks is like playing whack-a-mole. I never know what to order. But I finally got it right this spring. I have tons and tons of sickle hooks, and I have never sold so many sickle hook jigs ever. And
wait, slow down a second.
The word is out.
Slow down.
Got the sickle hooks. I may have mentioned this last time.
Yeah, slow down a second. What's a sickle hook?
Okay, well, a sickle hook is a special type of hook that was developed for catching fish with webby mouths. So it's I think, I don't know if Matsuo is the one that invented it per se, but Eagle Claw and Mustad and all the rest of them picked up on it. And it has more of an angle to the bend. It uses a point called a needle point. So it's a quick penetrating point. And as far as pan fishing goes, they're made on a light wire, and they actually are made to sort of straighten out and sort of bend open a bit. So when you stick that jig in a stick or a log or something, that hook will bend open just a bit, and you can get your jig back. Then just take your pliers and kind of close it down again. But I actually know a lot of crappie fishers that will flex the hook back and forth, bend it open, bend it closed a couple of times just to get it kind of primed and ready. And so when you see these guys that are like, yeah, I fished all day with, and only lost one jig, well, chances are they were using a sickle hook.
Oh, I see. I Googled it. It's SICKLE. It's sickle. almost like the bend in the hook almost comes to a point at the bottom of the hook.
It certainly does, especially in the Matsuo version. Yes. Then you got Eagle Claw. Eagle Claw has my favorite name, Lil Nasty.
That's a great name.
It's a great name. And then Skippy is the name of the Mustad one, which actually I use mostly Mustad hooks in the business. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of people getting them. So I know I got a lot of panfish and bass fishing folks doing their finesse fishing, and they're wanting the sickle hooks, and I got them.
Awesome. And the website is
glasswaterangling.com, and go down to BizJig. Jig heads is, I think, BizJig, and you hit that category, and we got all kinds of jig heads there for you.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. John, I finally got my boat in the water last weekend.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you a story about launching my boat for the first time. So whenever you have a big boat, a lot of big things can go wrong. My expectation is the first time I launch the boat, something's not going to work. And I always expect it to be a battery issue or a power issue. So I was mentally prepared for things to be broken.
All right.
So I put the boat together. I cleaned it up, put a brand new battery in to avoid that problem, the battery not working. And I backed the truck down and the trailer down the boat ramp on Conway Lake here in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. And, turned the boat on. It started right up, unhooked it from the trailer, and I slowly backed it off the trailer into the lake. And it came off the trailer, no problem. Like, this is going to be great. I'm going to get a few hours of fishing in as I shake the boat down for the season and test it all out. And so I'm backing off, and I'm ready to straighten out and beach the boat so I can park my truck and trailer. And when I pushed the throttle into forward, the boat went reverse faster than it went when it was in reverse. So my reverse, both reverse and throttle forward, both went reverse. So I thought I put it in neutral. And guess what neutral did?
Forward.
Also reverse.
I
couldn't even go in neutral. Every gear was reverse.
Oh my God.
Which makes it very problematic.
Yeah. You can't back it onto the trailer.
No, you can't. And well, the bigger problem is I was lucky that there were no boats around but me, and it wasn't in a crowded marina because I would have crashed the boat.
Yeah. Oh my.
You can't control the boat very well.
No. Oh my God. I can't even.
Like if you're backing off in a crowded marina and you back off and you need to push forward, you only have 10, 12 feet maybe sometimes to make that move. And if it goes backwards fast, that space is gone. Yes. So here I am on my boat. I'm going in little circles backwards, trying to figure out what to do. My truck's in the, back tires in the water. The trailer's in the water. The doors are wide open. Truck's running. I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. So I aimed the boat at the beach and turned it off and let it coast in. I trimmed the motor up and beached it kind of half backwards and then jumped off it and had to swim the front to the beach and beach it myself. I know. And that's so frustrating because that's not something you could fix in the water.
No.
So I'm dealing with this. I sit down in the boat for a minute and I crack open a beer to think.
Yeah.
And I just called the dealership who did the work on it in the fall. I had the propeller shaft rebuilt. It was bent from an accident. Zoe had backed into the beach on accident and bent the prop shaft. And so I called the dealer up who did the work, and I talked to the mechanic, and he said, we send those out to get done. And this has happened before. What happens is the linkage in there all looks the same, and he put it together all wrong. And I said, well, it's a problem because the boat's in the water and I'm in the water, and I need to get this fixed. I run a business on this boat. And he said, well, I could fix it next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever you want to bring it in. And I said, I'm going to bring it to you right now. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. They closed at 5. So I'm in the water and I'm trying to put the boat on the trailer by myself. And a big pontoon boat doesn't do well if you're just one person and it's windy out getting on the trailer.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily, 2 other guys showed up. One lives on the lake. He came over in a paddleboard. He saw what I was doing. And the other one is an off-duty Marine Patrol officer named Frank, who we see on the lake every time I'm on the lake. He always pulls up on us and chats us up and stuff. He's a super nice guy. They both got in the water with me. They didn't have to do this, which is awfully nice of them. And that's the thing about boaters is they help each other. And they jumped in the water, and we managed to push the boat back onto the trailer and get out of the water. And then I just made a beeline drive, 1-hour drive to the dealership where I got the boat. And I walked into the service center there, dripping wet still. And I put the key on the counter, and I said, "Where's Carl?" That was the guy who I talked on the phone. And he goes, "I'm right here." I go, "Okay, here's my boat." And he made some apologies, and then I thought I wouldn't see the boat for a week. So that was Friday night, and Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I got a phone call. They had fixed the boat already.
Yes.
So that's nice service. That's really good service. I appreciate that service. However, it shouldn't happen.
Right. You're pretty level-headed customer. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool. So I'm going to fire off a letter to the company, to the president of the company, and I'm going to thank them for really nice service and great people to work with there to get the boat fixed fast, and tell them how much appreciate what they did. And then I'm going to do the however sentence where I go, however, were I in a marina, this could have been some liability between me and you guys and other boats. It's a dangerous situation. It shouldn't have happened. Not to mention with the 2 trips back and forth to get the boat, 4 hours in the car, all the gas and blah, blah, blah. And I'm hoping they do something to make it right, like gas card or credit in the shop or something to make me feel a little better about it. Credit
in the shop.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. But something, just some token, either way, I appreciate the service. It's hard to complain to someone who does their best to make things right, but I also want to kind of let them know what happened. I want the president of the company to kind of hear it as well.
Well, if you don't want credit in the shop, then you want a transcript of the phone call when the president of the company calls the shop they send their work out to.
Yeah.
I want a transcript of you barbecuing that guy's butt.
Barbecue him. Yeah. Because it's happened before, apparently. So it's not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny side conversation I had with Carl, the mechanic on the phone, and he goes, well, you could drive your boat backwards. It will still work. I said, and? He goes, so you can use it all weekend long and then bring it to us next week. And I just said, you can drive it all weekend long. And then we got on the lake on Sunday morning for a full shakedown. I washed the boat down and brought it out there. My wife, Kristen, came out with us, and we caught a big, fat 22-inch rainbow trout at like 11 in the morning, 10 in the morning. It was not a time of day it's good for trout fishing. But we saw them rising and just dropped a spoon in the water, and it came right up trolling, and we ate it. We'll talk about the recipe on another show, but because it's a good culinary corner, but really fun.
Well, it sounds fun. It sounds fantastic. Well, I've had a little fun in my life too. I mean, I don't know. Our own Tim Tacklebox Bete, he just seems to not understand that I'm kind of busy and all. But he came up with this idea that we're going to run for president.
Oh, it's a great idea.
Yeah. Tim said I could be president. He's going to be vice president.
Oh, he wants a job with no work.
Yeah, wink, wink. But his whole thing is, crappie hippie, tackle box, 2024. All right.
I support it.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, the way he got me, he's like, look, there's a pond on the White House grounds.
That's true.
And wherever we go fishing, we could make Secret Service carry our stuff.
Oh, okay. He's onto something. Yeah.
And, mostly what this world needs is to get the right people out fishing together, and we could solve all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Well, because I fish with people who I disagree with all the time, and guess what? We become friends. It's perfect.
Exactly.
It's perfect. I like it. John.
Well, we're not on the ballot yet, but I have 11 signatures here in Kansas, and he has 17 in Ohio. So we are on our way.
Yeah, you're practically there. You just need a couple of felonies, and you're perfect. Too soon, John. Too soon. Let's move past.
All right.
Let's talk about this Father's Day contest you got going on.
Let's talk about the Father's Day contest. We need to have a contest. I had Jeanette, Rosie's mom, sent in a story that she did with Rosie, and it had a wonderful Father's Day or dad quote in it, dad stories in it, lots of stuff. And I thought, why not spin this off into a Father's Day contest? So what we're going to do is, just like we do Napod Pomo and some of these other things, National Podcast Posting Month. It's going to be a, call-in thing. Talk about fishing with your dad.
I love it.
Or talk about fishing with your father figure if your dad wasn't so great, or you lost him early, or it never happened. But
sure,
talk about that. Or if you're a dad, talk about fishing with your kids and how much you enjoy that, or how problematic that might be from time to time, or anything you want to talk about dad related for Father's Day. Call us up. We'll pick a winner. They'll get a Glasswater t-shirt and some lures and stuff. We'll do about $50 for the grand prize, $20 worth of merch for the second prize, $10 for third. And I will send every single person that enters something, even if it's just a little spinnerbait or some split shot or something like that. But you come on in. Glasswater will show you some love. I'll send you something. We're going to run the contest. We're starting it right now.
Perfect.
Run it through all of June. We'll start playing responses as soon as we start getting them. And then we'll pick the winners in July. And Clay, tell them how they can participate.
Well, it's super easy. All you have to do is call the Fish Nerds hotline, 607-378-FISH. That is 607-378-3474. And leave us a little voicemail right on there. We'll get it easy as pie. Or you can grab your phone and go to the memo function on your phone, and you can record your message on your phone and just email it to me, clay@fishnerds.com, and you're entered. Simple as that.
Entered, simple as that. And then the one last method that I like and have used is go to the website, fishnerds.com. There's a little microphone down in the right-hand corner on the bottom. Hit that mic, say your piece, and then we've got it. We've got it. You're done. You've done it, and we've got it. So any of those methods, please get in on the Father's Day fishing story contest.
Thanks, John. That's a great idea. Appreciate you putting that together.
Well, thank you, Jeanette, for giving me the idea.
Awesome.
All right. So what do you say, Clay? Shall we get on with it?
Yeah. Can we talk about sharks?
I am so ready to hear about some sharks.
Me too. Well, we got Doc Martin, our chief science correspondent. She got to go down and work with Dr. Shiffman, who you might have heard on the show a few times. He wrote the book Why Sharks Matter.
It's Doc Martin. I'm so excited to bring a recurring guest now. I think
I'm back.
You get that status. This is your third time on our podcast, I think.
Maybe fourth.
Maybe fourth. So Dr. David Shiffman, Why Sharks Matter, is here with... I'm here with you, actually, this time.
The last time we did this, I was in your office at Emporia.
And now I'm in your office.
Now you're here on the research vessel Garvin in South Florida.
So, David, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we're at?
Sure. So we are on the research vessel Garvin, which is run by Field School, an inclusive marine science teaching program. I wear many hats, as frequent listeners know, but today we're here in my capacity as adjunct faculty at the Nova Southeastern University Oceanographic campus, and we are doing a shark field research skills course for master students at Nova Southeastern. And you joined us for the day. We're just heading in, which is what that boat noise is in the background.
Yeah, so for our listeners, it's a little bit louder and noisier than we usually have it. That's because we are actually on the boat. And, you know, I don't do a lot of boat stuff because I do small streams that are below my knees. Do you want to describe what is RV Garvin and what did the students do today?
Sure. So the RV Garvin is a converted liveaboard dive vessel that now serves as the base of operations for Field School. And today we were out offshore in about 80 to 100 feet of water. We were using modified drum lines to catch, tag, measure, and sample a variety of large sharks found off South Florida. The purpose of the class is for students to learn how to do these skills, but by working with Field School, we are doing it in a way that they are contributing to collecting data to ongoing real research projects that are important for the conservation and management of these species.
And so why are classes like this important for students to have?
Well, there aren't a lot of opportunities to learn how to do this stuff in a calm and safe environment. There are positions where someone's already doing it and they need help, but they're often not an explicit "here's how to do it" component. So the purpose of this weekend is teaching these students who are master students at Nova Southeastern sort of the hows and whys of how to do this, and then letting them do it. They've worked up, what are we at, 15 sharks so far? I'm seeing a lot of nods from around the room. Yeah. No? 18 sharks. I've lost track of how many sharks we've tagged, as it has been such a productive weekend so far, and we have one more day.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask the students, do any of you brave souls want to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell me what your favorite shark you've seen so far is?
Sure.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Daria Geegan. I'm an MPS student at Nova, and today we got to see a great hammerhead actually. The Field School team worked that up for us, but that is one of the rarest and most exciting species in my opinion that you can catch, so that was the highlight of my day.
Awesome, thank you. And does another student want to talk about what does the workup entail? What have you been doing while you're out here with Dr. Shiffman?
Hi, my name is Kylie Jaliski, and I go to NSU. But the workup entails measurements. We tag them. They also take blood samples. The team does that. We take a biopsy sample, and then I think that's everything. Oh, and we also cut the fin for skin testing.
Hey, awesome, thank you. And so you're collecting these samples for other researchers.
Correct.
And what other researchers are those?
So Field School partners with scientific colleagues all over the world, as well as collects data for some of their own research projects. Several of the interns who work on the RV Garvin are master students at the University of Miami, near where Field School is based. So we were collecting data today for 7 or 8 different projects. Some run by University of Miami faculty, one that I'm involved in, and some by collaborators around the world.
So if the listeners wanted to go and see more about the Field School, where can they go?
So Field School, you can find them at getintothefield.com. In addition to having research experiences for whole classes like what we're doing here, they offer experiences where individuals can come live aboard the Garvin for a week. and do this in the summer. It's also field_school on Instagram, and they are similar on other social media platforms.
All right, and I have a question for all the students. So if the answer is yes, please do say that out loud, because my little recorder's right here. So has this been worth it?
Yes!
All right, thanks for joining.
I haven't entered their participation scores yet. So excellent stepping up.
All right, guys, thank you so much, and it's great to chat with you again.
Good to see you.
Hey, everybody, it's Doc Martin here with another guest from our very exciting shark excursion. We just heard from David Shiffman on the boat earlier, and now I'm here with Dr. Catherine McDonald. Welcome, Catherine, to the Fish Nerds podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so you are associated with the field school. What is your job title? Like, what is it that you do?
I am the director of field school, and I'm also the director of the Shark Research and Conservation Program at the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School of Marine, Atmospheric, and Earth Science. Try saying that 3 times fast.
1 time fast. Sounds pretty complicated. And so how did you get to where you are today?
So when I graduated college, I won a Thomas J. Watson Fellowship, which is an incredible year-long independent research fellowship. And you're only eligible for it the year you graduate from college, or I'd be applying to them every year. It sent me around the world to study the relationships between sharks and shoreline communities in the Bahamas, South Africa, Mozambique, Australia, and Malaysia. One of the requirements of the fellowship is you can't return to your country of origin for 365 days. So that sort of changed my career trajectory in meaningful ways. I spent a couple years doing jobs that I thought would be fun or interesting, or sometimes both. So I worked at a wild bird rescue center for a year. I worked on a dolphin tourism boat in the Bahamas for a year. And then I went back for my PhD here at the University of Miami. I finished my PhD in 2017, and I started teaching at the University of Miami in 2018. Although I founded field school with some of my favorite collaborators and best friends while I was a graduate student in 2015. And the reason we founded field school was because I was doing a lot of teaching and training of field skills as a graduate student, and it was so clear that students were really excited about learning how to do marine and aquatic research, but there's not always great opportunities to learn those skills, especially for folks who end up in labs where their primary investigators don't do a lot of field work.
So our listeners might not know how scientists learn the skills that they have, right? And so you're suggesting here that we're having students that might be interested in marine biology or ecology of some kind, and it turns out that there's not a great way to actually get them in the field to learn those skills in real life. And that's part of your inspiration for founding the field school. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Some folks are lucky enough to have mentors who have a bunch of fieldwork skills that they're happy to pass along. But not all mentors have those skills. And even those who do often are super busy and or may not have experience teaching those skills. And so it can be helpful to have places that are intended just for learning.
And I think that's really important, because I think probably all of us have had that teacher who really knows their stuff, but maybe isn't great at teaching you to know that stuff. And so the field school kind of helps those students that might need to get the actual hands-on skills for the profession that they want. And what kind of skills do they learn at the field school?
So they learn how to work common kinds of shark sampling gear. So here we mainly train them to use drum lines and long lines, which are 2 of the most common methodologies for sampling sharks. And they learn a lot about working on a boat and about collecting those biological samples from sharks, including measuring sharks, tagging sharks, and taking some of those tissue samples that we collect as part of our research.
And the students live on the boat for like several days. Is that correct, as part of the course?
They sure do. For this course, they're spending a weekend with us, Friday through Sunday. And in the summer, we have open enrollment week-long courses.
I was with you on this one weekend on a Saturday, and we put out drum lines, and we got 3 different species of shark that day. And students did all of the workup themselves. So I thought that was really impressive. They did it all. They baited the hooks, they threw the lines, they pulled them in, which was quite a feat given how deep we were. They organized themselves and they got it all done. I thought it was really nice. Pulling those lines, especially when there's a big shark on the other end, is a physical feat, right? Like that's not an easy thing to do. Really endearing when the line would be pulled all the way in and the rest of the students would just politely clap and cheer for the student that was doing the pulling. And that camaraderie among your group was very inspirational.
They were amazing. I think some of them may have known each other from school already. So I think there may have been some positive relationships we were benefiting from, but they were a very positive group on a day that gave us a real workout. So it wasn't a light effort day.
No, it wasn't. I know there was a lot of sweat happening after pulling in all those lines and holding down those sharks. So you founded this back in about 2015. So you're coming up on the 10-year anniversary for the field school. What do you think has worked or hasn't worked, and what changes might you make with the future of the field school?
I feel like anything that's worth doing is probably going to be hard at some times. So it probably won't surprise you to hear that COVID was really difficult for us. We very much wanted to make sure we were keeping our staff and our students super safe, but also maintaining and operating a 50-foot research vessel is not cheap or easy. And so for 2 years, for one of them, we essentially didn't run at all. And for one, we ran at half capacity, where we would take a maximum of 6 students instead of 12. And so we really just barely squeaked through COVID. And that was a difficult and stressful time. We had some folks, meaning all the best, I think, giving us business advice. You should consider laying off some of field school's team. And we sort of said, we're going to sink or swim together. It's going to work or it's not. But the point at which anybody gets laid off, we're not field school anymore. So we're going to make it work. And we did squeak through it, and we're very proud of it. Nobody ever, none of our staff missed a paycheck. And that meant a lot to us. But there were some difficult and stressful years in there. And of course, one of our goals is just to set a culture of continuous improvement. So any point at which any of us feel like we have it all figured out, or there's nothing we could learn to do better, we've already started to decline. So I look forward to all of the ways that our practices will change as we learn more or come up with new solutions to old problems. But I think that that's more about making sure that you're creating space and offering up energy towards growth than it is about having messed things up in the past, though, of course, I have in an incredible diversity of ways.
And so have students given you any feedback about taking the course that you'd like to share?
Oh, we got the most incredibly nice messages. David sent us some of the course reviews from this class, and it sounds like students had a really great experience. And I'm a little bit used to this after doing this for coming up on 10 years. But the thing that's so meaningful to me is that the thing students always say is not just about the quality of their educational experience, although we try very hard to ensure that it stays high, but about how welcome and included and safe they felt. And for me, the most important piece of this is teaching students that mistakes are okay. Because I think that, especially with social media and people often encountering each other mainly through like highlight reels of their lives, it's easy to feel like other people don't make mistakes, and it's just you out there alone being someone who regularly makes errors. But we're all out here dropping things and falling apart and realizing our Zoom cameras aren't working halfway through a day full of Zoom meetings. And so, from my perspective, creating a space where mistakes are an expected part of learning and not something about which we need to feel embarrassment or distress or shame is one of the things that's most important. And so it's always really nice to hear from students that came through for them.
Well, if our listeners want to go and learn more about the field school or about any of the research or teaching that you offer, is there a place where they can go to find out more?
Yes, absolutely. You can check out both Field School's website, which is getintothefield.com, and my lab group at the University of Miami's website, which is sharktagging.com. And you can also find me on Instagram in particular. I think all of us have kind of given up on Twitter a little bit at this point, at Dr. Katmack.
Awesome. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And the field school is an excellent experience. And I think more programs like that for our students to get them out and really doing the work where it's a safe learning environment to make those mistakes, just as you suggested earlier, will really benefit our future scientists and researchers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Boy, I bet you're never going to skip a class if your class is that interesting, are you?
I wouldn't. I get jealous sometimes.
Yes.
Doc, what an opportunity.
Totally fabulous. An opportunity for those kids. And the young folks are just, they fill me with so much hope because they're so into this and they're so all about saving this earth and keeping track of stuff and sharing data and finding things out and learning how to do it right. And they've got such great guidance from people like Doc and Dr. Shiffman. You can't help but have hope.
That's right. Well, thanks, Doc, for putting that together for us. And I want to get Doc back on the show on a regular as a co-host. Sometimes 3 of us on here and do a whole show together because she's so interesting.
She is, and we have just got to do that. That is a for sure. But now that graduation's about to happen, she's not going to be quite as busy.
Yeah, you think?
Doc likes to say busy, whether she's teaching or researching or whatever, but she's a little more available in the summertime.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. Well, let's jump right into some news, John, because everyone loves the fish in the news.
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
All righty. The first story we have on fish in the news is England needs the EPA.
They do.
The Guardian. Yeah, well, they do. They need something, baby, because the Guardian reported that fish kills in England are up tenfold.
Which is a lot.
Tenfold. It is horrible. This article, I always picture England as like, oh, it must be, like Japan, small island nation with limited nature and limited resources. And boy, I bet they, in this chalk fishing, legendary English fishing with these clear chalk streams and these pristine waters and all this. And it's just like these trout fishers are going out of their minds because sewage leaks all over the place. Some of them are being caused by climate change and increased flooding and old equipment, but some of them have been going on for years because there is improper, or let's say less vigilant. Vigilance are people that live in villages. Vigilance is what they need for this problem, and they're not getting it. And my favorite English fisher, Ms. Marina Gibson, reported on this in her Instagram feed, and I just had to jump right on it and look it up, and it is an absolute disgrace. And you get into this article, the Angling Trust, and they have a legal wing of the Angling Trust called Fish Legal. They are out to stop this nonsense. And there was a great quote from one of the people in Fish Legal. He said, the problem is that the government doesn't go out and look at these, and the water company doesn't go out and look at these kills unless they're reported or when they're, not necessarily when they're reported, but unless one of their operatives knows about it, sees about it, is in place. And he made the rather sobering observation that you can really only count fish in a fish kill if there's any fish left in the river to kill.
Right. And so once they're all dead, then you can't count.
Exactly. yeah. You know, if we get a river where they're going down and, oh, there's no more fish kills being reported, that doesn't mean the river's necessarily improved. It means you got them all. And it's a travesty and a tragedy, and they can't point to any single one entity, which would make this a lot easier to say evil corporation number 3 is doing all this. It is a big problem that has just largely been ignored by the government. And because things are changing, weather's changing and so forth, it's becoming a huge issue in England. So
right.
Good luck, our friends across the pond.
They don't say this in the article, but one of the problems they have, and we have this problem in New England as well, and we've been working to fix it over the last 20, 30 years, is the way the sewage overflow happens is their sewage is connected to their like roads and stuff. So they get what's called a combined sewage overflow. When you get a big flood, a lot of rain event, all your road water gets washed into the sewage plants, and that will overflow them into rivers. And that's one of the problems they're dealing with over there. It's called CSO, combined sewage overflow. And it's a problem in New England. We have a huge problem with that as well, but we're not seeing the fish kills that they're seeing there.
Well, it is a thing, and I know this is a problem in England, New England, and Old England.
Oh yeah,
and it's something that we have to get our eyes on. And it was really neat that Doc brought in the water people, to keep track of fish kills here in Kansas. It's an interesting piece. Go back and listen to that. Check out this article. But our friends across the pond are in need of bigger, better, meaner, leaner enforcement, and I hope they come up with a solution soon.
Yeah, and it's going to be expensive. Whatever it is,
going to be expensive. Whatever it is,
it's worth it. Well, they were saying in the article, if you saw birds dying in those numbers, nobody would tolerate it. But somehow
they wouldn't tolerate it.
Somehow with fish, we're able to tolerate more deaths for some reason. We discount the value.
It's a less visible problem unless you fish or around a river. Birds everywhere.
Right.
And you see a bunch of birds dead in the park, you're going to go, what's up with this? But, it's that sort of a thing. All right. Then our next story was sent in by our own Luke Chammings, our Australian correspondent.
And G'day, Luke.
That is a story on the late. G'day, Luke. Yes. And Dr. Allison is an Australian lady that's moved over here to the USA, and she is helping figure out the spinning fish mass mortality incident in Florida. And Luke sent in this YouTube video on the latest on the spinning fish mass mortality. It's about a half hour long, 40 minutes long, something like that. Very sciencey. So if you're a super nerd and you love that deep science dive, this is on here just for you. They are really closing in on this, Clay. They are really closing in on this. They haven't got, a lead pipe answer. I don't like that expression, lead pipe. We haven't got a responsibly made copper pipe answer on this particular problem, but they really are closing in on it. And it really does look like that dinoflagellate giardis or whatever it is probably going to be the culprit, because it's, it was tending to rise in the water column with all the heat. It was tending to inhabit different sorts of plants. But what they've got from these 4 different scientists that are in this little forum is that sharks, in 22 were healthy and doing just fine. They got that from the doctor from the Bimini Shark Lab, which I follow on Instagram. We've got people looking at the dinoflagellates and how they've changed. We've got Dr. Allison. She's on the toxicology, and she's eliminating all these other potential culprits. And like they're saying, like jacks and pompano and permits, are more affected, but they think it's because this dinoflagellate is changing habitats and acting differently, because it normally hangs out on the bottom, but it's hanging further up in the column in these grassy areas where those particular species like to feed. So anyway, it's a good watch. It's an in-depth watch. If you're into that, tune in. We got the link right there for you, but they're closing in on the mass mortality spinning fish phenomenon in Florida. And Luke Chammings saw it, and he sent it in, and we put it on for you.
Awesome. I can't wait to see the outcome. And then what do you do about it? Is the next question to ask. So lots to learn with this. Thanks, John.
All right. So next we've got one sent in by our own. What's that?
I didn't say anything.
Move on.
Yeah.
All right. All right. The next story we got for you, we kind of got to keep moving, Clay. I got a whole bunch of them this week, or this episode. The Not-so-Gold-Goldfish in the Great Lakes. We're talking about Lake Erie specifically here in this article, but I will try not to rant about, not dumping your aquarium contents into the local waters. What really got me about this article and about this story is these massive feral goldfish are threatening the Great Lake ecosystem. And they're coming up with novel ways to combat this. But one of the people asked the lady that the one scientist, she's trying to protect this lagoon. These Great Lakes have a lot of these little lagoons and these shallow areas where fish tend to want to spawn. And so they're actually sealing them off so that the fish have to swim through a gateway to get in there. Mm-hmm. And when it's just like you talk about in your former job, when a silver carp or a big goldfish comes in, they send it down one chute and back into the lake. And if it's a bass or a walleye or a crappie or something that ought to go in there and do its thing, or a pike, muskie, what have you, they send it on into the lagoon to get its business done. And what's your first question right there, Clay?
What do they do with? Well, I have questions. I'm going to ask what they do with the goldfish they find.
Well, that's just it. Right now, they're sending them back to the lake. But isn't the question going to be, what the hell are you doing? Why are you putting them back in the lake?
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to me it's hard because, people love those fish at one point.
that has nothing to do with it.
That was their pet. They're so cute. They got to send them back. I have no idea. I read the article and still don't understand why they're putting them back.
It's because because they're so contaminated as bottom feeders by PCBs and everything else, that to do mass disposal. So let's say this lady catches 500 a day. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, she's got 5,000 of these things. Mm-hmm. Okay. She's got to do something with them, right?
Right.
And she can't just go bury 5,000 of them in one spot because they are so contaminated that they will cause a new problem to crop up somewhere else. So until they come up with some, idea how to, dispose of these fish. I mean, it's kind of like the England thing. When you let a problem go on and on and on and you don't address it, it's just like a roof on your house, right?
Right.
Starts out, you don't want to pay for a patch. Let it leak a little more. Now you got to pay for a section. Pretty soon you got to pay for a whole roof. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of a thing. And this is a problem here. We didn't address the goldfish or the silver carp or anything else. And now, apparently, this is, I always thought, we say, eat them. And, I thought these guys catching these carp were turning it into protein for pet food or raw protein for other uses, animal feed and so forth. But apparently these fish in this part of the Great Lakes, their flesh is so contaminated, it's not good for nothing. Mm-hmm. So look at what you've done by letting this pollution problem happen, letting it go on, letting the big rich, companies and stuff do what they want, being afraid, I'm not going to roll off into a big political thing here. That's not what the show does.
I hear you. Curious though,
but it's a problem.
I'm curious though, so you send the fish down back into the lake where they're going to die eventually.
Sure.
Right. So their biomass will be returned to the lake. The same PCBs will be in them. What if you just kill them and put them back in the lake?
Well,
it doesn't change the amount of PCBs in the lake.
Well, kind of like when you pull up to the ramp during white bass season or anytime, and there's a nice fish cleaning station, but they say take your guts with you. Don't put them in the dumpster. Don't just throw them back in the lake. Don't just.
Right.
If the fish, silver carp goes back in the lake and goes off and dies somewhere, he's dying all over the place.
Right.
But when you put a big pile of them in one spot, well, they don't all pile up and die in the same place. This isn't like Valley of the Dinosaurs where they all go to die in that canyon, right? Okay. So that's the deal. That's the deal. They put them, and they just don't know how to deal with it. They know they've got to get the muskies and the bass and everybody else protected so the lagoon doesn't go to hell, but they don't know what to do with the fish right now. So
sounds like the damage is done already. So
damage can be undone, but there will always be a loss. There will be a scar. There will be a consequence that will never go away. But that doesn't mean we can't try. We can't fight.
Right. Well, and the biggest thing we could do is prevention. We're not going to rant about not putting your pet fish in the water. Not to do that. but
Well,
prevention.
and that's what disappointed me, because the story ends with kind of a feel-good thing about a lady that loved her goldfish ever so much and found out that this zoo would take it. And, that's great. They were saying, oh, we've got 300 some goldfish now. And it's like, well, that's good for those 300.
Right.
But we know that that's really a drop in the ocean, right?
Yeah, and realistically speaking, everyone with a goldfish isn't going to call the zoo and see if they take their goldfish. The answer,
Exactly.
the answer will be no in almost all cases. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just keep it till it dies, and then do like the rest of us do: flush it down with the brown trout.
Okay. All right.
I mean, and I bet you that's a problem too. But let's not talk about that now. Move on.
All right, Clay. I've got this new segment I'm going to call Epic Fishing Jackasses. In the news.
In the news. Perfect, John. All right. Well,
right.
Let's talk about some jackasses.
All right. All right. The first one is a classic macho idiot. I know that being a big macho guy is a big deal here in the USA, and it's also a big deal in Australia, but I didn't know that the New Zealanders were particularly down with this.
Oh, there's a common thread with most jackasses. You ready for this?
Yeah.
It's a hormone. It's called testosterone. And there's this, you don't see women behaving the way men do in these cases. Not usually.
Not usually, no.
And no one has ever studied them to find out how their testosterone levels are when they do. But I would bet it's testosterone driven stupidness.
Well,
it's macho man stuff. It's look who's is bigger, look who can pee further. And combine that with wanting the likes on social media, and you get exponential jackasses.
I don't know why it's popular. I never liked the show, never watched the show.
I love it.
I guess I get enough in real life that I don't need to see any addition. But this one is great because the commentator in New Zealand and the people that issued this man the tickets and so forth just talk about what an idiot he is and what a fool and what a travesty this sort of behavior is. But anyway, the gist of it is this guy saw an orca swimming with the little baby orca, a calf. And I know they're not fish unless you're Herman Melville.
Right.
And Herman Melville does make a compelling argument that they are fish. Pretty cool writing there. But anyway, point being, it's close enough, and punching anything just to prove you're a tough guy, especially a fish that's just or a sea mammal that's minding its own business, it's a bad move. Would you agree?
Yeah, although every time I see a whale, the urge to punch it is just there. I don't know where it comes from. Oh, I do. It comes from my testosterone and the size of man.
Well, maybe I'm just getting old and grandfatherly. Yeah. I never really wanted to punch.
They make pills for that. Yeah.
They do. Well,
let's talk about what this guy actually did, because I think that story is more important.
What he actually did.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Is he wanted to film himself, and what they call New Zealand officials have fined a man hundreds of dollars for what they say was a display of shocking and stupid attitude.
Yes,
after he was filmed jumping off a boat in an attempt to body slam an orca that was swimming near a calf. In news release Tuesday, New Zealand's Department of Conservation said that it was made aware of a video posted on Instagram in February that shows a 50-year-old man committing the act.
He wasn't even a 20-year-old. He was an old dude.
Well, yeah, he's going through that midlife crisis stuff. I'm still tough. I can still, it's like, what's that Molly?
Look what I can do. Look at
Sally O'Malley. I'm Sally O'Malley, and I'm 50. I can kick. Anyway, that's the male version of that, and he's off the coast of Devonport, Auckland, where the video was taken, and it's illegal to try to harass any sort of animal, but especially in a violent way. And at one point, the video he yells, "I touched it," and other people are praising him for his antics, filming and so forth. They laugh and cheer and egg him on, and it's they say that he was in danger too.
Of course,
this was actually a male orca. They could have gone territorial testosterone on his ass,
right?
And it wouldn't have turned out well. Now,
does part of you wish it had turned on him?
a big part of me wishes it had turned on him. That would have been funny. Then the boat I'm in over there, that's when I start laughing. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
You got what you had coming, smart guy.
Yeah. I mean, I have mixed feelings. Like my funny part of my brain says I wish it had, but the human part of my body says, no. So I'm glad he didn't die, but maybe a little nip would have been nice. So.
A little nip would have been nice. Little lesson. So hopefully the fine is enough of a lesson, and hopefully the public outcry is a lesson. But they're really not at all common on off the coast of New Zealand, so they're really protective of them. And
well, they're not common because every time I go there, some dude jumps off a boat.
Yeah,
tries to smack them, so they don't come around. Like I'm not coming here anymore. Worst vacation ever.
Right? You always get that Pixar image, of the mom orca going, "We don't go there. We don't go there, little orky," because they're crazy. They're crazy. Okay, so anyway, that's number one.
Number two. It's funny. Number two list is one I almost put up, John, and I saw you already did it. So go ahead.
Well, this is from Tim Tacklebox Bete, as was the previous piece, and that's the Big Sealy tournament. Cheater is caught altering the weight of a fish, and yeah. There's tons and tons of cheater stories, but there's certain ones that catch our eye, and this one caught my eye because the guy was ridiculous. He brings a bass, throws it on the scale, and it has 2.59 pounds of lead inside it.
Right. That's what struck me was, okay, like we know what a bass, everyone knows by length roughly, but bass anglers know by length roughly what a bass should weigh, right? So if you want to tip the scale a couple ounces, people might not notice.
No.
When you tip the scales the weight of another bass, he's probably putting a 5-pound bass on the scale, and all of a sudden it's weighing in at 7.5 pounds. It's pretty obvious.
I had it more pictured like a 1-pound bass weighing in at 3.5.
Who knows? But I mean, most people aren't weighing in 1 pounder, so just it's crazy. And with the amount of weight he put in that thing, and
you see these sinkers are gigantic.
They're huge, almost 1 pound sinkers, like he was in the ocean. Like it's like you wouldn't even have those on your boat in fresh water, except you went there with one goal, and that's cheat.
Exactly. That is it. And the other funny part of it that I just love is he started getting the looks. He started hearing the grumbling, and he chickened out and ran out of there and took off in his truck. And
he just ran away. Run away! Run away!
The jig is up. Time for Plan B. Of course.
You'll never catch me.
Yeah. Except,
he got in trouble.
We've got a registration right here with your name, address, and license plate on it. So,
and your fishing license. Yep, we know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so stupid.
Oh my gosh! So anyway,
next level. I was thinking about this today while I was driving here to record, and I was thinking, okay, so is there a perfect cheating crime? Is there a way? I don't do bass tournament. I do one bass tournament a year. That's for disabled vets, because I don't like the fish kills that happen. And every time I go to a bass tournament, I see dead bass floating around somewhere nearby. But is there a way that you could cheat in this where they wouldn't know you cheated? I think I have an idea. I'm not going to do it.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So bass eat food, right?
Yes, they do.
So what if you had like a bucket of minnows, and you caught that bass, and you just put like you got a 5-pound bass, and you know that most people are bringing in a 5-pound bass, but you have one, maybe put like a 1/2 pound of minnows in one of them. Just shove them down his stomach. How would they know?
You are a mischievous little imp, is what you are. Because that is brilliant. I have heard of guys, having tanks in their garage and weighing in the same bass over and over. I did that Mike Long piece back when my correspondent days. The way he would, he had all kinds of methods. Snagging. He had a tank in his garage. He would take all kinds of stuff. He would take a bass that was fully dead from his freezer and put it in a bag and slip the bag over the gunnels of the boat when the person wasn't looking. Or no, he would have it in a bag like stapled to a tree or something out in the. Anyway, he did a real sleight of hand where he would take the dead bass and get it on his line and then pull it in and act like he caught it and then take the dead fish penalty. But he only pulled that one with new partners that he hadn't fished before. Guys,
right, because he must
they're
have
not
been good
paying
at. They must
attention.
have caught him a few times. That's dumb too.
Yeah, it's
So
dumb too.
much
But
effort.
yours is like, wow, you would have to have like a biologist or something.
Well, you'd
Because
have to be the right forage, right?
Well, it would have to be the right forage, and the only way you get caught is that these are not. I mean, it would be really hard, Clay. Gosh darn it, Clay! We're trying to prevent this stuff. Okay.
I actually don't care about it. I don't care about bass tournaments. I don't understand it, and I compete in them, and I don't understand them, and I just that one a year I do, and I just it's not my beat. It just doesn't match my style of fishing. So
I can just see the examiner just like, well, you could have eaten all these shiners right before he caught them. I don't know what to do.
And all you have to do as the whaling angler is sign an affidavit that you didn't alter the fish. So you just have to lie. You should be a really good liar. I would giggle. Yeah. I would give it up. I'd be like, Clay, did you stuff this fish full of minnows? And I'd be like, no. And they would know.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I'm not a good con man. I'm not a good cheater. And it would be like, did you stuff this bass full of minnows? And then there would be a noise from my back door and my pants would be full.
Right.
And they would
as you run away.
As I run away, as I try to waddle away. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be it. So anyway,
stupid.
So that is another example of epic stupid that we are bringing you today. And you got the time or the stomach for one more?
All right, let's do a quick one.
Let's do it real quick. Okay. Tugboat guy in Illinois. He stopped to take a break and was having a cig, and he watched these guys pull up to a boat and attach a stringer of fish. And I don't think this is a bass tournament. It sounds more like a walleye tournament. Probably in a big Great Lakes zone, Lake Michigan. That's it. That's Illinois. And he thought that looked suspicious. Well, of course, he had to get on with his job and dug a boat somewhere. But he called the DNR, and they staked it out. And sure enough, these guys didn't even bother fishing. They just came sailing up to this boat right before weigh-in, took the stringer off the side of it, straight over, and we're standing there in the weigh-in line when all of a sudden here comes 3 or however many DNR officers, and they busted that guy. So
yeah, and it was bass.
It was bass. It was the Cal Sag Bass Anglers Tournament. Anyway, it's just sad. But I loved it because we have the report thing in Kansas. You have the report thing in New Hampshire, and by golly, we're not asking you to come up and play, the hero and get into it with people, but do get hold of that DNR. Tell them what you saw. And hopefully they'll go out and take care of it.
Absolutely. All right, John, those are great jackass stories. I think that was a nice addition to the Fish in the News.
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
Well, this next story is all yours, man. You introduce it.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because the story speaks for itself. We were talking about bioplastics, and we were having a little debate about how good, how bad they are. We found an article that was shared to us by Eric Hoffner from Manga Bay. And it was all about bioplastics and how we don't know what's in them and how they might be just as bad as petroleum-based plastics. So Manga Bay reached out to us, and we were able to secure an interview with the writer of the article, Alden Wicker. And I got her on Zoom a couple days ago. And without further ado, let's go. All right, fish nerds, I'm so excited because Alden Wicker is with me. Alden Wicker is an award-winning investigative journalist and author of To Die For, How Toxic Fashion is Making Us Sick and How We Can Fight Back. She splits her time between managing her platform on safe and sustainable fashion, ecocult.com, and contributing to publications such as New York Times, BBC, Wired, Vox, Vogue, and much more. But more important, Alden Wicker is with us right now. Hi, Alden.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm so happy you made time for us. We were connected through Manga Bay. Eric connected us after we talked about your article a couple of weeks ago on our Fish News segment. And your article was titled Bioplastics as Toxic as Regular Plastics. Both new regulations say researchers. That's the article you wrote. And we brought this up because in fishing, we're always talking about fishing with better plastics. We use a lot of soft plastic in fishing, and they come off the hook and they end up in the environment. And so we're always looking for a better way than just dropping plastics on our lakes. And then this article sucked away all my hope, Alden.
Yeah. Sorry. That's what I do. I just ruin everything.
No, you're just a ruiner of fun. I know. But Alden, but I'm actually glad to know it because I want to talk about this a little bit. So this all came about because you were trying to researchers, you weren't the researcher, you were doing research on researchers, but you were trying to find out if bioplastics were truly better than regular plastics. And what'd you find out?
Yeah, so I was talking to a researcher actually about a different story around just toxic plastics in general.
Mm-hmm.
And she just happened to mention that she had done some research that got her attacked by the bioplastics industry. And of course, I love some drama. So I asked her what was going on, and she said she had done some research showing that, this is relevant for your audience. So basically, a student, project with her help, they had taken water that had been steeped with bioplastic lined cups, because I don't think a lot of people know this, but like coffee cups are lined with bioplastic, even if they look like they're paper. And so they had regular plastics, and then they had bioplastic lined coffee cups. So they like put them in this water, and then they took that water that had been steeping in this, and they exposed mosquito larvae to it to see what would happen. And the mosquito exhibited like stunted growth, death, like all these different things. And it didn't matter whether they were in the bioplastic water or the regular plastic water.
So the outcome was the same.
Yeah, the outcome is the same. And the thing is so the question is like, so what is it about this plastic that's doing this? And the answer is we don't know, because bioplastic makers will not share what is in their bioplastic.
It's a secret. All right. So we should probably define a few things first. We know what plastic is, petroleum product. What is bioplastic?
There's two types of bioplastics. So there's bio-based plastics. So those are plastics that are made from usually things like corn, sugar beets, sugar cane, and potatoes. So these commodity crops.
Right.
Or you could talk about biodegradable plastics,
Mm-hmm.
which are plastics that supposedly biodegrade in the right conditions. So there's tons of different ways you can measure that. It could be in your backyard compost. It could be in a municipal composting system that it gets really hot. It could be in seawater. And so not all biodegradable plastics are bio-based plastics, or vice versa. Some are both. But
it's a very confusing marketplace.
Yeah, it is. It is. And both of these things are important if you're worried about what you're putting on the end of your fishing line. Because you don't want to inhibit the growth of the fish,
No.
right? You also don't want all these plastics floating around and getting eaten by the fish, which again inhibits their growth and can cause all of these problems. So you ideally you would want a biodegradable, bio-based, non-toxic plastic.
Right. And then you read the marketing materials and you think, oh, the corn-based or sugar-based, and you think, done. Like, we've solved the problem. We can go home now. Right. But that's not true.
Yeah. No, that's not true. And to understand why, there's just like some basic science here. So plastic is made mostly from fossil fuels, but in the end, it can come from any carbon source, right? So it could be like, it doesn't really matter to the end product or to the toxicity of the end product where that carbon comes from, dead dinosaurs or potatoes. There has to be this whole process of turning that carbon source into a polymer. And so that requires a lot of different chemicals. You have to turn them into into chemicals, whether they're petrochemicals or other chemicals. And then you have additives and you have dyes, and then there's byproducts, and then there can be contamination. And so all this happens with regular plastics, and this happens with bioplastics. So in the end, does it really matter that it comes from potatoes or petroleum? For the toxicity, maybe not.
Wow. And it's shocking to me because you try to do the right thing and then you're still screwing up. Because
Yeah.
so the idea for me, I understand these companies when they first were coming out and first coming, they were trying to solve a problem, and now it feels like they're just repackaging a problem.
Yeah, and that seems to be the thing that's going on for everything, right? And
Mhm.
when I talked to this researcher, or this researcher and then another researcher who did a similar multi-phase experiment testing the toxicity of various bioplastics compared to regular plastics, found the
Mhm.
same thing. And both of them are of the mind that it's sort of, we've been trying to have our cake and eat it too
Mhm.
with these bioplastics. You know, it's sort of like, you know, when it comes to having a picnic, we're like, well, I really don't want to use reusables because, you know, you have to wash them and they're more expensive and maybe someone's going to take it home with them or whatever. So this is the, like, if we could just do bioplastic cups and plates and forks and everything, then we don't have to worry about any of the stuff that comes with plastic, but we still can have disposables. And I just don't think that's true.
No, it doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like we've been tricked. So
Yeah.
it's a big problem, and they're primarily you're seeing this in a lot of packaging materials and food service stuff, and we're
Yeah.
seeing it now in the fishing industry more and more. And you know, we feel like we're trying to move in the right direction. What do we do about it to make sure we are going in the right direction? And what is the right direction?
Well, I'm not a
Hmm.
fisherwoman, so I don't know what options are available.
Right.
I imagine that the fishing industry is like a lot of other industries, or fishing is a pastime, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm a gardener,
Right.
and so I can choose when I go to the store to get a shovel with a metal head and a wooden handle, or I can get a plastic shovel.
Hmm.
And one's going to be cheaper than the other, but one might last longer than the other. And one definitely has less plastic than the other. And so I know it's kind of hard to turn this around when it seems like, you know, it's plastic is more easily available and it's cheaper. But what are you giving up when
Right.
you switch to the easier option? And it's something that, you know, I'm continually working on for myself and saying, is this convenience? Is this price worth it for me? And usually the answer is no if I
Right.
stop to give it a thought.
Well, here's the challenging thing too. So we fish using monofilament fishing line, which is plastic fishing line.
Right.
And that's a big problem for the environment. We hate to see that get into the lakes. So they do make biodegradable fishing line and bioplastic fishing lines now. But now I'm wondering, are we really buying something else? How do I do my homework on this? How do I make sure what I'm getting is something that's better?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
There are certifications for
Mhm.
biodegradable plastics. And you want to look and see what is it promising. For biodegradable fishing line, it should have a certification that it's biodegradable in water, in freshwater or seawater within, gosh, like it, you know, it like a month at most. I don't even know if that's on the market,
I don't
but
know.
you know, but like there's a wide range of defining what's biodegradable. It
Sure.
could be like, oh, this is biodegradable within 3 years in a properly tended backyard compost. That's
Hmm.
not going to help the fish if they
No.
get, you know, tangled up in it. So it's important that you know what kind of biodegradability you're looking at.
Right. There's so much out there. And so I feel like the heart is sometimes in the right place, and then the money drives everybody into the wrong direction on all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a big problem, and people are trying to do the best they can. And that's what makes it so hard to deal with. It's crazy.
Yeah. And also I have some sympathy for the makers of these biodegradable lines because I've been doing a lot of research lately on seaweed
Hmm.
based bioplastic replacements for some of these things, and nothing's like there's a couple things that have hit the market in not in fishing but in fashion,
Sure.
and it's
Efficient and
really
fashion are the same
hard.
thing.
Yeah, totally. I'm
Yeah,
the exact overlay of target markets.
exactly.
But you don't there it's really hard using seaweed or other bio-based inputs to get the same performance as petroleum inputs. You usually have to mix in some petroleum-based things to give it the tensile strength you need. And we both know, I know enough to know that you need proper tensile strength when you're talking about a fishing line.
Sure.
So that's how you end up getting non-biodegradable or these toxic inputs, because to just get it to the point where your clientele is going to be satisfied with its performance, you usually have to make some compromises.
It's a tough one out there. So I feel like, my brain says we're moving in that direction. People are talking about it, having the conversation. So it's not all negative, but my heart's broken a little bit hearing all this stuff. So
yeah, sorry about that.
But it's really interesting. It's worth talking about. It's worth, just being informed shoppers. So you can make better choices. You can do the best you can. And you're not going to get it perfect. We're all going to be buying plastics. We can't help it. Yeah. So, well, that's really good. Yeah. Well,
there's one thing that I would add is, if you're concerned about this, one thing that I do worry about is, in this case, I absolutely do not want people who fish to think, oh, you know what? Oh man, my line just blew into the water. Like, well, it's biodegradable. I'll just leave it. No. You need to treat that with as much care as a conventional plastic line or whatever else it is, because it might do just as much damage. And so just be careful about what you're like, be extra careful with it, just like you would with regular plastic.
That's sound advice. We don't want to muck up our waters with, because even if it's in there for a short time, it's going to do some damage to whoever fish or other animals get tangled up in it. So I think we're with you on that one. Yeah.
You wouldn't be happy if somebody threw their biodegradable plastic cup in your backyard and was like, but it's biodegradable.
It's going to be fine. Give me 3 months. Don't worry about it. No, you're totally right on the money with that one too. Well, listen, it was so insightful and helpful, and really appreciate your time today. And you want to give me a book a plug? You've got your How Fashion is Making Us Sick book to die for.
Yeah, absolutely. And for your audience, this is something that should really concern them, because a lot of the fishing gear, like the wearables, the apparel, can have really toxic performance finishes on it, like PFAS, your water repellent stuff, all of these different things. So this isn't just a lady problem. This is a performance outdoor person. It's a big problem for outdoor people as well. So definitely check out my book To Die For if you're curious at all about that.
Hey, thank you so much, Alden Wicker. We appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on the Fish Nerds podcast with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been fun.
All right. And what I found most interesting about her, John, is her focus is on like textiles mostly, like clothing.
Yes, that's her new book.
Yeah.
To Die For, How Toxic Fashion is Making Us Sick and How to Fight Back. I just love it. And I really like the way she comes at this thing. The responsibility is on us to hold the manufacturers responsible. And I love how you both came up with, apparel is a big part of the outdoor business. And some of the most successful apparel companies in the world, like Patagonia, although Patagonia seems to be, the most environmental as far as I know.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Well, and if you talk to Meg Carney and some people that really keep an eye on this, I'm not going to hold anybody up as an example, good or bad. I just know that Patagonia is a big company, makes a lot of money, makes a lot of stuff, and has a really good attitude about the environment, has always tried to be as green as they can. So, it is a big thing. And I thought it was really astute that you mentioned, you both agreed about, the coatings and the different, especially waterproofing. It's a major issue in outdoor clothing. But Alden points out that, all we know right now is that the mosquito larvae are getting sick, and they get just as sick from the plastic made with a potato carbon as they do a plastic made with dinosaur bone, oil carbon. Okay.
Right.
So, our argument, our thing, what we had last time was about, we can't let halfway measures put us to sleep. You mentioned this several times in the interview. I don't interview. Let's call it a conversation. And that's germane because, we can't just say, okay, we have BioLine now. It biodegrades in 5 to 7 years. And people go, well, yeah, of course, birds, fish, whatever's going to run afoul of it in that time span. But the existing time span is anywhere from 50 to 500 years.
Right.
So we're bringing it down. You know what I mean? We're bringing it down quite a ways.
Well, yeah, that's the goal is to get better. Perfect can be the goal, but sometimes you got to take the better. You just have to.
You just got to take better.
We're
We're just getting closer. It's like the hybrid cars. We're just getting closer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to get there eventually. And as long as we're for it and, thinking about it and heading in that direction, it's a good thing as long as it doesn't put us to sleep and we don't just go problem solved or this is all we can do or this is, all we're going to do and you better like it and all that. Once again, it's creating a cultural milieu, a mental milieu where, change is what we want. We have an end game goal for this sort of thing, but steps along the way are welcome because I don't like the attitude that, like you mentioned last time we talked about this, hey, we can't fix it all in one fell swoop, so we might as well not even try. That's not the attitude.
No, I agree with you on that one. We agree. I concur.
We agree.
Yeah.
We concur. Ooh, fancy boy.
I did a fancy interview for a change, so why not?
Yeah, that was a great interview. Great person and a great job. I have some teasers. You want to hear what's coming up?
Let's go.
Episodes ahead of us?
Sure.
Well, our own kid correspondent, Rosie Clifton, has interviewed Mr. Andy, and we will have her interview with Mr. Andy Weiner about his book Down by the River coming up on the next show. And I am pursuing some other kid-centered content, and I will say no more about that. I've got a writer, an outdoor writer and outdoorsman named Aaron Ross, and he wrote a killer book called Fly Fishing Austin and Central Texas. And it is a whole lot of fun, and I'm working on getting him on the show. And I've got all kinds of things I'm cooking up. But anyway, there's a few things that are coming up. Fly fishing in Texas, kids talking to writers from California, and more.
That sounds great.
Oh, and one more thing before we get on out of here. Fish Wrap has a new article out. Please read it. Tomorrow's fish need help today. And we've got a link for it here in the show notes. And I also put it up on the Fish Nerds Facebook group. But you know what, Clay?
What?
These folks have sat and listened to us two fish nerds when they should have been out fishing.
They really should have been. Yeah. Big fat thanks, of course, to our families from this podcast. Thanks to Wally Pleasant and Dianah's Bath Thoughts for our theme music. Doc Martin for the piece she sent in. Tim Tackleback Beat for always sending us stuff behind the scenes. And of course, Luke Chammings from Chammings Lures. Thanks to you, John, as well. A lot of great work on this podcast.
Well, thank you very much. And same to you, sir. And let's not forget our new friend, Alden Wicker, who came in to talk to us about bioplastics.
Perfect.
And until next time, follow the code of the Fish Nerds. Spawn early and often.
Never trust a free lunch with strings attached.
And swim against the current every chance you get.
You did it, John. You made a podcast.
Well, we made a podcast.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean, casting nets, Fish Nerds. Fish Nerds. Fish Nerds. It's a podcast.
Just for the halibut!
Fried in a basket or broiled in a pan. Eat it raw like you're in Siam. Fish Nerds. Fish Nerds. Fish Nerds. It's a podcast.